myoglobin is something that's a protein that's found in muscle. Okay? That's what's going to make certain muscles more of a darker color. Okay? So if you're talking about red meat or darker meat, that's going to have more myoglobin versus, like you're talking about on a chicken, right? When you talk about white meat, you're talking about the breast. Chickens aren't really moving their breast muscles that much. They're moving their legs mostly. So that's where you're going to have dark meat in the legs, which is going to have more of the myoglobin. So I'm not sure why I think, pork's supposed to be the other white meat, right? But I'm sure it's got to have myoglobin in there. So those fibers are also going to have sarcoplasmic reticulum and T-tubules. And that's the part where you don't necessarily need to know about that. I mean, there's different structures in the muscle, but what you do need to know is that there's actin and myosin, and we'll get into a picture in that. Those are the actual parts of the muscle that are the proteins that do the contracting. Okay? They hook onto each other. It's sort of like the two different parts of Velcro, but it's a little bit differently, obviously, because Velcro doesn't contract. They have hooks and things. That's actin and myosin is what the structure of the muscle that does the actual contracting. So here, so if this is the sarcolemma, and all of this inside here is the muscle cell. Okay? So this is the actual muscle cell or muscle fiber right here. So inside of that, you're going to have these myofibrils. So then this sarcomere, as you have these different structures in here, this is the sarcomere where you have these two different bands together. And it's the actual actin and myosin is the little fibers, the little bridges that actually make the muscle contract. So what does it take to make a muscle contract? What's that?
Nerve stimulation.
Right. So you have to have a nerve ending has to stimulate the muscle. Okay. Then that nerve stimulation, when it goes into one part of the muscle, it has to spread to the rest of the muscle. So that has to happen. Okay. And then for that electrical signal to spread throughout the muscle, you need calcium ions, because nerve conduction and also muscle conduction has to do with calcium. Okay? So that's what's going to spread that electrical signal. It starts out as an electrical signal through the nerves, and then that signal is going to get spread throughout the length of the muscle fiber. As the muscle fiber contracts, sometimes there's an all or none principle. Okay? So either the whole muscle fiber contracts or it doesn't do it all. So again, the contraction has to do with where you're getting onto the level of actin and the myosin. Okay, so those are going to have cross bridges, and they're the things that are going to do the actual contraction. So as long as those cross bridges are activated with actin and myosin are working together, when that stops happening, then it's going to, the contraction is going to end. Anybody have any questions about that? So basically, you start out with a nerve impulse that comes from your nervous system. Again, skeletal muscles are voluntary, so that nerve impulse travels through the nerve. At one point, it actually enters the muscle, and then it has to spread along that whole muscle fiber for the contraction to occur. So now I'm talking about particular terms that relate to muscle. Because muscles are going to work together, right? You don't just have one muscle. When one muscle moves in one direction, other muscles are lengthening in the other direction. So when you're talking about a particular type of movement, we have the prime mover. Right? So when you have a given action, the prime mover is the main muscle that does that particular action. Or if it's not a particular action, then if it has to do with maintaining posture, so if the prime mover, so some of the main muscles that are responsible for you standing up upright is the soleus. Okay? So you have postural muscles that, although they may not actually be doing movement, they're still contracting to do a task, which is to maintain your posture. So then what do you think a synergist is?
Works with it.
Is that?
Works with it.
Yeah, it works together with it. Right? So it may participate in doing the same action, or it may stabilize some other or eliminate some other activity to allow the prime mover to do its action. So it's either going to assist in that motion, or it's going to stabilize to reduce unwanted motion. And so then specifically stabilizers or fixators can be synergists, but they're doing a particular thing where they're either stabilizing the origin of the prime mover so that it can move more effectively, or a fixator can hold a joint in one certain position so that the prime mover can do its work. So you have prime movers, which is the main muscle that does the action, and then you can have synergists, which basically are going to assist the prime mover. And then subdivisions of that, you get more specifically, you can have either stabilizers or fixators. Okay? So fixators is so that if you want to hold the joint in one position so that the prime mover can act more efficiently. So the contraction of one muscle fiber, which is a cell, is going to be similar to the whole muscle itself as an actual organ. Now, many know what the difference between isotonic and isometric is? So what does the word iso mean? It's the same, right? And then metric. Like when you're talking about the metric system, you're talking about kilometers and millimeters and stuff like that. So isometric is where the muscle doesn't change its length, so it's like this kind of a contraction. And I'm contracting my muscle, but it's not the same length. Okay? Well, so basically what isotonic means is it maintains the same tone. Okay? And actually, this is not... A muscle can actually lengthen when an isometric can either be lengthening or shortening. And we'll talk more specifically about that because you have two different types of isotonic pressure. So what isotonic really means is the muscles maintaining the same tension. Okay? And it'll be a little more clear, but just make a note that there's more to it, more to that too, and we'll get into that. Basically, and what this means is when you have an isotonic contraction, either the muscle can lengthen or it can shorten. So concentric, where the muscle shortens. If I'm talking about my biceps muscle and I'm doing a biceps curl, I do this, what's happening to the biceps? Is it shortening or lengthening? It's shortening, so that's concentric. And now if I'm holding the weight, but I'm letting it down, am I still contracting my biceps? So it's not contraction, but is it, when I do this, is it getting shorter or longer? So this is eccentric. This is concentric and eccentric. So what you could do, and to fix this on this other part here, isotonic contraction is changing of the muscle length, not decreasing. Just change that word to changing of the muscle length. So it can either shorten or it can lengthen. Isometric means same length, and isotonic means the same tension, but it can either lengthen or shorten. If it shortens, what kind of contraction? Eccentric. If it lengthens, it's eccentric. Okay? Just change this right here to changing muscle length. And then muscle shortens or lengthens during contraction.